We are back, and this time it's for real. Hello, I'm Jay Berman. Welcome to the New York Giants Squad Show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Our long New York football nightmare is finally over. Let's talk about Big Blue getting their man.
I'm Patricia of Locked On Giants, and in a word, yes.
I'm Mark Collins, two-time Super Bowl champion. Well, we have the main actor. Now we must find the supporting cast.
Let's go, Big Blue. It's the New York Giants Squad. Everything New York Giants every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the G-Men. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. The Giants Squad Show starts now.
All right, we finally made it. We have a coach. It's not official yet, but it's going to happen. Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. With Mark and Patricia, I am Jay. Patricia, the floor is yours. The Giants finally get their man. We're all tired of all of this, but at least John Harbaugh is a New York Giant.
Yeah. He's finalizing what's reported a 5-year, $100 million contract, so money was no object. But the Giants, in my opinion, got the best possible candidate of all the head coaching candidates. So this is what they needed. They needed somebody with a pedigree, with experience in building a program from the bottom up. You know, no disrespect to the novices and the future, head coaches out there. The Giants, given how their, the last decade plus has run, they had to go this direction, and they wowed Harbaugh. I think the decision came around midnight last night. I think I was well in bed by that point, so I woke up this morning and had to scramble to get everything done. But yeah, it's finally done.
Mark, your reaction?
I'm happy, of course. And this was a guy that I was saying we all wanted from the get-go when we started hearing rumors that Harbaugh wouldn't be back. And I know I was going, man, I hope that's true. He's not going to be back in Baltimore and the Giants have a shot at him. Well, comes to fruition, it happened. And I'm so glad. The tough part is now, I don't want to say too tough, but you got your guy, right? So now you got to build that staff, that supporting cast. And that's going to be, I don't think much of a challenge on one side of the ball, but maybe on the other side, on the defense side of the ball.
Yeah, it's interesting because he obviously has a lot to tackle, Mark, and you're absolutely right. Patricia, we discussed this several times over the last week or two. What's the first thing he's got to get done? Obviously, signing the contract would be number one, but as a program builder, as a CEO, as we like to call him, what do you think his first steps will be?
Got to be putting the coaching staff in place. I mean, if you have this vision of how you want to build up this team, you need the people to do it. And from what I understand, the Giants ownership has said money is no object. You go out, you get who you need. Now in Baltimore, I think he had something like 22 or 23 assistant coaches, each one specific to a task. It wasn't like, you did A, B, C, and D. And, so he had this big staff. So he's got to put that staff together. But along the way, look, putting together a staff could potentially take a few weeks. So you've got the All-Star games coming up. You've got to, you've got to look at the roster and evaluate it. Probably, I know he's done some of that work, and you've got to decide, okay, who do I want? Where do I have needs, and how do we approach it? And this, put all that together. So John Harbaugh, he's going to be a very, very busy beaver these next few weeks.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mark.
I think the easier part for John will probably be on the offensive side because he already has his offensive coordinator. Todd Monken's coming. He's coming. It's on the defensive side where Baltimore over the last few years have not been as staunch as they have been on defense. So I'm pretty sure the DC is not coming along. So he's going to find somebody that he can trust on the defensive side who could build a staff to his liking and bring that defense coordinator along. That'll be the difficult part. I don't know who that person will be. I don't know who he trusts. I don't know if he knows anybody out there, maybe a college brother, I don't know. But that's going to be the biggest task.
What's the impact of the hire, Patricia? Obviously, we can't do wins and losses yet because there haven't been any games for Harbaugh to coach the Giants. But that being said, without those games attached yet, what's the impact of the hire?
This is a legacy hire. I mean, a legacy making hire for Joe Shane, for the ownership. This is huge. I mean, this is also going to have repercussions throughout the organization. I mean, at the end of the year, fans were selling off tickets. They were screaming, fire everybody. I'm done. I'm going to find a new team. The fan base is energized. And I think that's going to, trickle down to the players. I mean, the players I haven't had a chance to really dive into social media to see what the players have said. But just having spoken to them a couple of weeks in Baggy Day, and when I talked to them and I said, what are you looking for? They're like, we want somebody who's been there, done that, someone who will come in and hold us accountable, because they haven't really had that of late.
It's interesting, Mark, because sometimes a first-time head coach has to introduce himself to all these players. It seems like it's the other way around now. The players need to introduce themselves to John Harbaugh, and there's a difference there.
Yeah, and that's why the Giants got it right this time, because they brought in somebody who's been there, done that, and won championships. And the correlation I have with that is when the Giants brought in Dan Reeves in 1993. Dan Reeves was a damn good coach in Denver, went to a Super Bowl, and always had the Denver Broncos at least driving for playoffs or in the playoffs. So that's instant credibility. As players who were on that team, even though we won the Super Bowl, that was immediate credibility. Okay, he knows how to get it done. Now, if it was a coach, the Giants would hire a coach who never been to the playoffs or didn't have a winning track or winning formula, a little bit tough to handle for guys like us on that team in 93 than now the Giants have right now with the guys on that staff now. Harbaugh brings that credibility. He brings that stabilization, and he will command and demand respect.
It's something they obviously needed, Patricia. There was, we use the phrase "no brainer" because that's what it was, and the Giants really needed this one.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I've been screaming about this for a long time. The Giants developed into a country club, from the practices to the locker room environment. Look, this is a job. Everybody says, oh, you're not in college anymore. So this is a job. And I was not a fan of how the locker room was set up with the pool table and the lazy boy chairs and the ping pong table and garbage thrown all over the floor. I mean, it was a hazard. I mean, have some pride in your work environment. For all the people who remember Tom Coughlin didn't put up with that. He said, this is your office. You come in here, you have a sense of pride, you be professional. If you want to go play cards or hang out with your teammates, go to the players' lounge to do that, not in the locker room. I'm hoping John Harbaugh enacts that or brings that mindset back to the locker room.
Well, the previous staff, they lost institutional control of the situation, right? So whenever you have a dirty locker room and all this other stuff going on, and your head coach isn't saying much about it, yeah, he lost the locker room in more ways than one. I don't think John Harbaugh is going to do that. He's going to be that type of coach. And once again, he's walking into that locker room, to that organization with instant credibility. And we talked about this last week, I think, on Monday or Tuesday. He's going to have the talk with the team. As soon as he signs on that dotted line, hopefully the pen don't break or run out of ink, he gets it done. He's going to have that talk with the team as soon as possible and lay down the rules of how it's going to change. And the sooner the better. And once that's done, I think you'll see an immediate reaction and change of culture on the team and in the organization.
The Giants have only had two head coaches win Super Bowls, obviously Parcells and Coughlin. If you were to build a mold around those kinds of guys, it seems like, at least for the guys that were available to coach, John Harbaugh is that guy, Patricia. I mean, it seems like he's right out of the mold of Parcells and Tom Coughlin.
Yeah. I mean, he's a CEO style head coach. He has, his own voice, his own identity. He's only had 5 losing seasons in 18 years, if that many. And the losing seasons haven't been that bad. It's not like, the Ravens only won 3 games. I think they've won, I think their worst record has been like 8-9 or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, I see him cut from the same cloth, even though he doesn't come from that tree. He does come from I believe, the Andy Reid tree, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And that's not a bad tree to come from. So, you look at the success Andy Reid has had over his career and his assistants and whatnot. I mean, John Harbaugh's made his own name, and I just think this is exactly what the Giants need. We talk about, throwback, smash mouth football and everything like that. They're throwing it back to the Parcells and the Coughlin era, and I'm here for it.
John, the CEO style, yes, I like that title. Get organized, getting things done the right way. I love that as well, and that's what the Giants need. No more, let's just do what we got to do and whatever. No, this is structure. This is what the Giants need. That's what they got in the coach, and hopefully the staff that he hires, which I know is going to be a damn good one. Let's be honest. You're not going to bring in any bums to run a team like that. He doesn't surround himself that way. But he'll do it right. He'll do it the right way. And I think the Giants will be a lot better than they were over the last 10 years.
How startling do you think, Patricia, it'll be for the incumbents that are going to stay, players-wise, coming from a guy like, first, obviously, Dable, then Mike Kafka, who we all expected not to get the job, except for Mark, who wanted Kafka from the beginning.
Only has a plan B or C.
Right.
Yes,
Anyways,
that's it.
that being said, it's a very interesting, I guess, difference or separate path, Patricia, from the way it was under Dable and Kafka most recently.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the older guys who have been around and gone through hard knocks, if you will, they're not going to have as much of an adjustment. Now, during Baggy Day, I talked to a variety of players, young, old, rookies, veterans, and the common response I got when I talked about the head coach is they wanted somebody to come in, set the tone, and hold guys accountable. And that's kind of where, one of the areas where I think the previous regime might have gotten off the rails a little bit. Not the same accountability wasn't held for everybody. And, coaches say, the second you walk in the door, I don't care if you're $100 million free agent, a first round draft pick, or a scrub we picked up off the street, you're all on equal ground. Well, those were words. So now we need to start seeing some action behind those words.
Yeah, Mark, no more lip service. She's absolutely right. An excellent point. No more lip service. Now it's down to business.
Yeah, but there is a degree of separation, believe it or not, in that comment. If Lawrence Taylor were to do something crazy, let's say late for a meeting, he'll get a little leeway. He won't get cut. But if a rookie who's not playing, he's going to get cut. There's some little stature there. But when you think about it, so John's going to come in and he's going to address the team. But there's going to be maybe a core of maybe 20 to 25 core players who are probably going to be there. And those 20 to 25 core players, those are the ones he's really pushing that message to. And those 20 to 25 players are the ones he and his staff will pick out to be back. That's the core group. And every coach has done it. Parcells did it when he got the job and really took the Giants to the next level in 83, 84. He had that core group of guys. And that core group stuck with us from 84 all the way to 89, 90. Coughlin did the same thing. It's a core group. It's a small core group, but they're there. And John would do the same thing. And once you have that core group that you're with, along with what John's going to do, he'll bring some of those players from Baltimore to help him institute his program. This is how we do it. Dan Reeves did that when he came from Denver over to the Giants. Brought 4 or 5 guys in. Brad DeLuiso, a couple of the guys. Brought those guys in. That's what they do. So you got a core plus 5 or 6 other guys to institute what he wants to do. So I like where we're going. The structure so far from just the signing of John Harbaugh to get to the next level all depends on who he's bringing in, the core groups that the Giants keep, and implement his program to go to the next level.
All right, so we'll take our first quick break. We need to figure out exactly who's coming with them. We might have an idea offensively, but as Mark said earlier, defensively might be a little bit different. We'll try and break it down. We'll do all that next. All right, time to tell you about Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O. The smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. I love how simple Quo makes everything. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number, so nothing gets missed. Everyone sees the full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and more personal. Also, it works right from your phone or computer, and you can even keep your existing number. And Quo's smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight next steps so details never slip through the cracks. It's no surprise Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses. From solo operators to growing teams, make this year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnfl. That's quo.com/lockedonnfl. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. All right, up next is the ultimate quarterback football legend. Hey, guys, the draft picks positions are set, and so many teams are looking for their franchise quarterback. Ever wish to become a pro quarterback, getting drafted first overall by the Giants? We all have. Well, now you can. There's a mobile game just for you called Ultimate QB Football Legend. In this game, you step into the cleats of a #1 draft pick quarterback, and it's your job to lead your team to greatness, to help turn a failing franchise into a dynasty. This is the #1 QB career mode game on the mobile app stores, and it introduces the most realistic environment with full career control. Sign contracts, train and upgrade yourself, build chemistry, evolve your teammates, give input to your GM on roster moves, play the actual games in 2D, and rise through the ranks to become a pro football legend. You'll deal with the ups and downs of a QB career, and from rookie nerds to playoff drama, and every choice shapes your journey. Ultimate QB is totally free to play, has no ads, works 100% offline. Perfect for when you want to sneak in a quick game or two on the go. Just head over to ultimate-qb.com. That's ultimateqb.com and search for Ultimate QB in your app store. We've got something special just for you guys. Use the promo code LOCKEDON, all caps, in the game store to get a free boost at the start of your career. Ultimate quarterback, football legend, QB1. It's your legacy. All right, we are back, and as we said, he needs some help. John Harbaugh, he needs an offensive coordinator, needs a defensive coordinator, needs them all. He needs an entire staff. So obviously we'll start right at the top, Patricia, with Todd Monken, who everyone, I guess, just assumes he's going to be the Giants OC.
Yeah, I mean, something that we need to kind of put an asterisk here before we make any, hires here. The Giants, they have to interview and meet the requirements of the Rooney Rule. That was expanded to include coordinators. So before we can pencil in or put in ink that it's going to be Todd Monken, they do have to interview people. And I don't believe Mike Kafka, who is considered a minority candidate, is going to count. I think it has to be external. So that being said, yeah, I mean, Todd Monken, they've had some success with him down in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson. And then prior to that, I think Todd Monken was with Cleveland. He worked with Baker Mayfield when Mayfield was the quarterback there. And I think at the time, in Mayfield's second season, he threw for like a career high 3,800 yards or something like that, which again was a career high for him. So that seems to be the direction they want to go in. Defensive coordinator and special teams, that's going to be a little bit trickier. Do they maybe go with an Antonio Pierce as defensive coordinator, who I know the Giants had in as a head coaching interview, but I'm sure the topic of, hey, if this doesn't work out, would you be interested in coming here if the new head coach, wants you? Maybe Harbaugh brings Chuck Pagano in. You know, I think Pagano was with him down in Baltimore. You know, for special teams, I believe their special teams coordinator was Chris Horton, and they had a pretty good special teams group, if I'm not mistaken. You know, that of course being Harbaugh's, you know, background. So it's going to be interesting to see who he brings in as the coordinators. But I do think we're going to see all three new coordinators. I don't think Charlie Bullen. I know some people have asked me about Charlie Bullen staying on as DC. I don't think he's going to be kept on. I think Dallas is interested in him, and I just don't see him being kept on.
Mark, obviously very important for John Harbaugh to fill out his staff in a good manner, for lack of a better term. We all want the best guys he can get. This is not easy, especially if he doesn't take all of the same guys. He's got to do some shopping here, Mark.
Yeah, he's got to do some shopping. Plus, following the Rooney rules, he's got to look at interview minority coach on both sides. All that being said, he's going to bring in someone he knows. It's always done that way, and someone he trusts. And I tend to think on the defensive side, I would like an Antonio Pierce. I really would. Yes, he's a giant, and plus he knows his stuff. He does. And I would think in today's NFL, offense is harder than defense. It sounds crazy, but it really is. You can move some parts on defense and get it right faster than offense, based on who you have. Offense, you gotta hit it just right, especially now. You have a quarterback. You got to get your OC right. You got to get a head coach. You got to get the players to work for you. And I say that because of what we've seen over the last year or two, what they've done in New England, they've done in Denver, they've done in Jacksonville, they've done in Houston. It's a quick thing to do when you get a new coach, a year or two coach who's just been there for a year or two. It's an easy fix. So offense, you could get it right, and the defense usually comes along a little later. Or if you got a good DC, you get it right as well. But he's gonna get a good staff. I'm not worried about that, and I think, I know, when you build a team as he's done before, and the Parcells has done before, and the Coughlins and the Andy Reids, when you build your team based on the coaches you bring in and the players, you got to build your team based on how can I win my division. It's not how I'm going to win the Super Bowl. Well, you just won 3 or 4 games. Anything a Super Bowl? No. You got to win your division first. And you got to put the pieces in first, which is a great coaching staff to do so, to win your division, get the players to do that. So, and I think John's got his work cut out for him. And hopefully, I think he will get it right.
There's some interesting things here at play. Obviously, we have Jackson Dart. So whoever the offensive guy is going to run to match up with Jackson Dart, get things going. That being said, on the defensive side, it's not that we have Jackson Darts there, but we do have Abdul Carter's there and Dexter Lawrence and such and so on and so forth. So there are monster pieces, Patricia, that should prove very, quote unquote, delicious for guys that aren't currently there yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've got a good core on defense. It's just, unfortunately, they didn't optimize what they had for most of the season. Charlie Bullen did a pretty good job, when he was appointed defensive coordinator after Shane Bowen was fired. That being said, now you need somebody who's got the ability to think outside the box. You can't just come in and say, this is the system I want to run, and I don't care, I'll fit square pegs into round holes. That's where you get into trouble. That's where Shane Bowen got into trouble. That's where past defensive coordinators might have gotten into trouble. You have to have an idea of what you want to run, but you also have to have some flexibility and say, okay, maybe I can't quite run this, but I can run that because of the talent I have, and just make it work.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
That's why I keep talking about Antonio Pearson. He played it. And if you ask anybody who played with him, he was the coach on the field. He was like a Harry Carson. He was like a Pepper Johnson. These dudes know defense. So if you got a young guy like that who's played it, won Super Bowls, he coached at the high level, interim, but he knows defense. I think Antonio would connect better with those players who are on the staff right now, on the team right now. Those core, that front 7 and maybe some of the DBs and some other people you may bring in. I think the connection's there. Now, can he work with Jim Harbaugh, Joe Harbaugh? That remains to be seen. But I think he deserves a legitimate shot at the DC spot.
For what it's worth, and it's not worth anything, I think fans, Patricia, would love Antonio Pierce. And that doesn't make it the right call. But as Mark said, I think there's a lot of built up equity with Antonio Pierce, despite the fact that he struggled in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, in Las Vegas, to be fair to Antonio Pierce, he was hamstrung out there. He didn't totally get what he needed. You know, I talked to several beat writers out there in Las Vegas, and they said that the organization out there, you know, they overruled him with stuff that he wanted or felt that he needed. So he really didn't have as fair of a chance. That being said, we're not talking about bringing Antonio Pierce in here as a head coach. We're talking about bringing him in as a defensive coordinator. When AP was here, I'm not kidding, one of the smartest, if not the smartest players I have ever covered. All right. This man knew what the offense was doing before the offense probably knew what they were doing. He was that good, and he got people lined up. He was their spiritual leader along with Michael Strahan. I think Antonio Pierce, you know, and he's still young enough to where he can relate to these guys, which is very, you know, key. I mean, you know, they can see him as one of theirs. And Mark, you might be able to, you know, attest to this better than I can. But when you have somebody who has played the game at a high level, like Antonio Pierce has, who has won a Super Bowl championship, maybe you're a little bit more receptive and just, you know, you respond better to that guy, assuming that he, you know, he's not an absolute idiot, you know?
Yeah, you're right. I got stories to tell, but I don't want to bore anybody with my stories. But I'll tell you this one story. So Dan Reeves gets the job with the Giants, and he hires a defensive back coach who came straight from college. And this coach is trying to tell me how to play corner. And I was appalled. I told this man, and at the time, what was I, 28, 29, maybe 30? Because, and I know he's a coach, but he came from college. I told this man, hey, you better go watch me film. I did, because I was all pro. I won Super Bowls. Hey, dude, come on. Watch how you talk to me. It would have been hard for me to say that if that defensive back coach was, you know, Everson Walls or somebody like that, Ronnie Lott. You know, guys who've been there and done that. They were all pros, Super Bowl champions, a little bit different. So who you bring in does matter. They have that credibility to it. So I think AP would be great. It'd be great for the Giants, you know, and I think it'd be great for those young players who could kind of see themselves, how he got there, the best out of his situation when he put the Giants, and it can help them out as well.
It's interesting because he's a guy that is not young anymore, but you know these players know who he is. You get a 65-year-old former player in there, it might not be the same. These guys know Antonio Pierce, Patricia.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, his name is on that ring around the locker room at inside the Quest Diagnostic Center. You know, it's interesting. Sometimes I will ask players about the Giants' history, how much they know about it. And they know Lawrence Taylor, obviously Eli Manning, you know, the recent guys. And, you know, we'll talk about other guys. So if it's a defensive player, I'll say, oh, you know, do you know about Andy Robustelli? Do you know about Antonio Pierce? Do you know about Jesse Armstead, Mark Collins, Harry Carson? A lot of those guys, for the most part, have heard the names. They might not be, you know, as up on statistics and what the players did. But, yeah, I mean, you bring up an Antonio Pierce, and they're like, oh, yeah, Antonio Pierce, middle linebacker, Super Bowl, you know, champion. I'm like, yeah. So that does make a difference, you know, because now it's like these legends that you see their names on the wall. It's like, oh, wow, this guy is now here talking to me. And I remember last year when they brought Lawrence Taylor in to talk to the rookies, everybody, you know, the players that I spoke to, I said, how was that? They're like, oh, my God, it was freaking Lawrence Taylor. I can't believe he was standing right there. So that's the type of effect that, you know, a legend can have. And, you know, AP, not quite on the same level as a Lawrence Taylor, who's like the greatest to ever play the game, but he's got the pedigree to come in, I think, to hold that kind of command of a room.
Yeah, Mark, you know the impact that these former guys can have on the current guys. It is tangible. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, especially, and thanks to, social media, Google and stuff like that, they can always do research on who the coach is or whatever. But you got an AP walking in, or a Lawrence Taylor or a Carl Banks. You start looking at those guys up and say, hey, man, these guys, they know what the hell they're talking about. They've been there, they've done that. And if AP gets the job as DC, well, not only he's done that, he's coached it, he lived it, and he's when I say young, I mean in his 40s. To me, that's young. He's still relatable to these younger players who could go on Google, see him on social media, and see film on him and stuff like that. That does resonate. It just does. So I hope he gets serious consideration to get that spot. But if he gets it, I just tend to think it bodes well for those players on that side of the ball. And I know the fans will be excited about it. And I think it'll be great for the whole organization.
All right, we need to take another break. We'll do that now. We're halfway home on this Thursday now. Amazing. And John Harbaugh, of course, will be the New York Giants head coach. When we return, we'll talk about Jackson Dart and how much of an impact he had on sealing the deal with John Harbaugh. We'll do that next. All right, let's tell you about Home Chef. As the new year gets going, a lot of people are trying to simplify their routines, and dinner is a big one. Between busy work days, cold winter nights, and packed schedules, having an easy, reliable dinner plan makes a huge difference. That's where Home Chef comes in. Home Chef takes the stress out of cooking by delivering fresh, pre-portioned ingredients right to your door with easy-to-follow recipes that actually taste great. They're rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease, and it's easy to see why. Meals come ready to fit your schedule. 30-minute recipes, oven-ready trays, or quick lunches. Over 30 weekly options, including family-sized meals and different dietary choices. Recipes are simple but feel elevated, even restaurant quality, with dishes co-created by chefs like Gordon Ramsay. Everything arrives pre-portioned, so there's less prep, less mess, and no wasted food. Saves time and money. Home Chef customers save an average of $86 per month on groceries. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering my listeners 50% off your first box, free shipping, free dessert for life. Just go to homechef.com/lockedon. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. All right, as we said, halfway home, it's Patricia, it's Mark, it's Jay. We talked about Jackson Dart because obviously he's a key piece in all of this. Patricia, how much did Jackson Dart recruit, and how much do we thank him, I guess, for landing John Harbaugh?
I think he was a big part of it. I mean, I know Jackson Dart was in the facility. He did have an opportunity to speak with him. I don't know how long or what they talked about, obviously. But look, if you're a head coach, what's the #1 position you want to know that you have some stability in? And that would be quarterback. I mean, no disrespect to the other positions on a football team. Quarterback is key. And, John Harbaugh spent a lot of time, from what I understand, watching film of Jackson Dart, as well as, the other quarterbacks of the teams that maybe he was considering going to, the Titans, the Falcons, and so forth. And with Jackson Dart, I mean, this is a kid who, I did a study based on data that I pulled from True Media, and Jackson Dart topped both, Ward and Michael Penix down in Atlanta in just about every major statistical category. All right. And this is without having a #1 receiver. This is without having, Cam Skadden, who was part of that rushing attack. This is with, losing Andrew Thomas the last 2 games of the season. When you look at what Jackson Dart did, I mean, it was pretty incredible. So now you sit there and you say, gee, if he was able to do all this, given those circumstances, what could he do? We get him a couple more playmakers. We get him a good offensive coordinator. What can he do? And I think that was definitely a big appeal for John Harbaugh.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, with the quarterback already in place, that should be a no-brainer. I mean, established quarterback, even without all his weapons. What impact did Jackson have on the hiring of John Harbaugh? I'm pretty sure that Jackson wasn't the guy who checked the box. Yeah, he's a coach I want to play for. I think it was the other way around. I think when John walked in and said, "Hey, let's come on, Jackson, let's watch some film. Let's go over some stuff because I want to make sure that we're going to get together, make this work, and this whatever." And another thing, I don't think that Jackson Dart has earned that respect to be that guy to go to make a decision on who his next coach should be. He's not there yet. And the Giants really have not invested a lot of money into Jackson just yet. He's still in his rookie contract. He doesn't have the $500 million 10-year deal just yet. So it was the other way around. John went to Jackson, let's watch the film. Let's do this, let's do that. Instead of Jackson checking off the box going, yeah, I want to work for this guy, hire this coach because it works out best. But all in all, I'm glad that happened, that John Harbaugh got a chance to meet with him and sit with him and go over few things to make sure that there's a little connectivity, even though it's brief, and they'll expand on that more. But I'm glad they even connected just to that level.
Yeah, it would have looked terrible if he wasn't there, right, Patricia? I mean, I'm not suggesting that he was forced to be there, but the fact that he was and stayed for however long he did and got the job done, whatever he said, we don't know. That being said, it's like, thank God he was there.
Well, I mean, Jackson Dart was going to be there regardless. He's just, he's itching to get out there again and play. He doesn't like the fact that the Giants are sitting at home while other teams are in the postseason. That much I can tell you. So, he's getting a jump start on next year. So now that he has an idea of who the head coach is, now that he has an idea of who the offensive coordinator might be, he can start studying film. Now, by rule, I don't believe he can actually interact on football matters with the coaches. I think that has to wait until the offseason program. But remember, the Giants, because they have a head coaching change, they're going to get to start their offseason program a couple weeks earlier than everybody else. They're going to get an extra mini camp that's going to be valuable. All right. So they're going to have plenty of time to learn what systems the coaching staff wants and to perfect them so that when they get to training camp, they can hit the ground running.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Well, he can still work out at an off-site place, gym, to get some stuff done. And hell, if whoever the offensive coordinator is, Todd Monken or whoever, they can send him a playbook to look at, during the offseason. He could get a jump start that way as well. So it's just being on site to do all this other stuff he can't do thanks to league rules. But other stuff that he may have to look at and study, he can get that as soon as possible.
All right. So I've been looking forward to this particular topic because it's something we've discussed many times, and that is Joe Schoen possibly being a roadblock. Well, now we know the answer to that question, Patricia. Not only was he not a roadblock, he helped recruit. And I think that we all need to put that behind us now. As much as we didn't want Schoen to come back, he got Harbaugh. So I guess he gets to live another day.
Oh, absolutely. And, look, I kind of compare this to when you first start a relationship with somebody. You get to know the person. You call them up, you talk on the phone or text or whatever, FaceTime. And then gradually you advance to the dating stage, and then you see how it goes. And if everything goes well, it leads to, going together, marriage and whatnot. That's kind of the approach Joe Schoen took with John Harbaugh. He was, after Harbaugh was fired, Schoen, hey, how you doing? Casual conversations, expressing an interest. Shane's not a bad guy. He's very easy to get along with. He's easy to work with, and people have this idea that he's an ogre, that his word goes and I don't want to hear anything, different. But there have been instances where he has given in to what others have suggested to him. Jackson Dart's a perfect example. Brian Dable pounded the table for Jackson Dart. Joe Schoen wasn't quite sold on him. But Joe Schoen said, okay, you know what? You've made a convincing argument. We'll go and we'll get him. and hence you have the organizational decision. So Shane built up that rapport with John Harbaugh, and I don't know if you guys saw it, but the restaurant that they went to after they were done with the interview posted a picture of Shane with John Harbaugh. Now, I don't know who else was in the party, but the two of them had their arms around each other and they were smiling, and you just kind of got the feeling that, okay, this is going to be a happy, productive relationship.
Yeah, Mark, I was going to say, I mean, Shane should be thankful because, one, he got to hire the guy and he hired the right guy, so he gets to keep his job.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't see that picture. Yeah, he's got the right guy, all right. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But then, so we know, and I know this is a Giant show, and I do other shows, but the top job, the best job on the table was a Giant job. Okay. And I'll be honest, because I'm always honest. It's like coaching, you got a legacy team here. You got the Boston Celtics. You got the New York Yankees. If the Yankee job came open and the LA Angels job came open, who are you going to take? If the Boston Celtics job came open and the Dallas Mavericks job came open, who are you going to take? Sometimes those legacy organizations, it means something. More times than not, it's a no-brainer. So John Harbaugh, as much as it was, the Atlanta roster is this and the Vegas roster, what didn't mean squat. His target, and I'm saying this because this is what I'm thinking, his target has always been New York. It's always been the Giants. Don't say Atlanta. Don't say Miami. So let's get it off the table. So doing dinner, yeah. If money was no object, which I'm pretty sure they had this talk way before he even came to visit. And I tend to think that Harbaugh already knew I would take that job for peanuts if I had to, because the win in New York and the win in that organization means more than anything else. That's a legacy franchise, and you want to win there. He's got it. He's got his money. He can build his stuff. And with Joe Shane, will he take a step back to make things work as far as a power struggle kind of deal? Yeah, you do that for a John Harbaugh, and that's what he did.
And to Mark's point, real quick, look at what was reported. Harbaugh came into East Rutherford to tour the facility and meet everybody. And then had he gone through with the Tennessee Titans interview, the Titans would have come to his house, which right off the bat told me, okay, maybe that's just a courtesy. Maybe he's not as interested, because wouldn't you want to go to the facility, meet the people, see what you've got? I mean, I know that the Ravens played the Titans several times, probably more often than they played the Giants. But still, you probably would want to get knee deep into the organization to see the people that maybe you don't come across on the game day. So that to me told me that was a very telling action or report. I mean, it didn't happen, obviously, because he took the Giants job, but that was very telling to me.
I legitimately have no idea what the answer to this question is. You guys know a lot more football than I do, so I'll throw it out to you. Patricia, we'll start. Realistic turnaround for the Giants. We took this note here, and I think it's an excellent question. Sorry to say, folks, I just don't know. I have no clue. Your thoughts, Patricia?
I mean, nothing's ever definite, but we have seen situations where a good head coach will turn things around. Look at Chicago. Look at New England. Yeah. Okay, look down at Jacksonville. So if everything falls into place, if the program is solid, if you have the right players, if you have a little bit of help with the injury situation, why not? Why not? I mean, the advantage you have now is that you've got a guy with a proven system that not too many people have figured out how to stop. So why couldn't the Giants turn it around? I mean, obviously now if the injury bug comes in and wipes out all the key players, now you're talking a bit of an uphill challenge. But I think in John Harbaugh, he not only has an idea of what he wants to do, but how he's going to do it.
Yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead, Jack. I was just
going to say, in baseball and basketball, it's hard to go from worst to first. In football, we've seen it happen, so it's not impossible, Mark.
Well, you're right. And I would say this, just based on last year's record, or this year's record, whatever we call it, this season's record. Out of the 7 games that the Giants lost, 7 games they lost, and probably 8 or 9 they could have won. In those games, I think John Harbaugh would have made a difference in those losses. So let's say you tack on 6 or 7 wins on this year's record. What's that? 10 wins, 11 wins, whatever. That's 10, 11 wins. Based on just that, tells me the turnaround could be pretty damn quick. Yeah, we've seen it happen last year, this year with the Patriots, Denver. It can happen. Do I expect it to happen? You're damn right I expect it to happen. Because that dude's done it before. He knows how to do it. I don't see John Harbaugh making mistakes that Brian Dable made. I don't see the DC or OC that he brings in making the mistakes that Kafka made or Bola made. I don't see that happening. So you add 6, 7 wins, I think, immediately just because of the coach. And that's not even talking about the players who they're going to draft and the free agents they're going to bring in. You may tackle another 2 or 3 wins. Are they going to go 13-3, 13-4, 14-4, whatever? 3? No. But I see double-digit wins just based on this year's season, winning 3 or 4 games. And the games they lost, we had a new coach then. I think it makes a good difference.
All right, great stuff. We'll take one more break. Believe it or not, Kafka, Bowen, Dable, all getting interviews. We'll tell you where when we return on the other side. All right, let's tell you about Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, well, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring? Well, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsors jobs, puts your post at the top of the page, and helps you reach the right candidates faster. All right, sponsored jobs boost your post to the people who are the best match for your role, and that makes a real difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit. That'll help to give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now. Support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do the right way with Indeed. All right, we are back, and obviously, guys are getting interviews, rightfully so. We'll start with Mike Kafka. Miami and Detroit need OCs. Very interesting times, Patricia, for Mike Kafka.
Yeah, Mike, he's a good dude. I mean, given what he had to work with and having the play calling taken away from him, losing Saquon Barkley, you can sit there and you can say, okay, did he maybe have some of the odds stacked against him? And, even coming in as interim head coach, at that point, what was he going to really change? I mean, he could make minor changes, but there wasn't a whole lot he could do. So I'm glad that Kafka is getting an opportunity to interview for OC spots. I don't think he's quite ready yet to be a head coach because at the end of the day, it's what have you done for me lately? And he only won 2 games against teams that you can argue were just not very good or may have been tanking. Who knows? But I'm glad to see he's getting an opportunity around the league. And one day he will be a head coach, but I don't think 2026 is going to be the year.
Yeah, Mark, all yours.
Yeah, well deserved. I mean, he's done enough to earn that at least. I know the deck was stacked against him to being very successful with the injuries the Giants had and stuff like that. But he's young enough; he'll be okay. He'll land somewhere. Remember, he started in Kansas City, so he's got that behind him. He'll be okay. He'll be fine wherever he goes. I hope he gets a job in Tennessee. We'll see what happens.
It's also interesting to point out that he had to deal with Abdul Carter, and he did what Brian Dable did not do. And in addition to that, Patricia, he got Abdul Carter to play well, even after all those benchings. So there's something to be said for that. And I'm not suggesting Kafka needs to be the head coach. That ship has sailed, but he shouldn't be unemployed.
No, and I don't think he will be. I really don't. I mean, I could even see him maybe going back to Kansas City with Andy Reid, because that's where he basically got his start under Andy Reid. And excuse me, they're moving on from Matt Nagy, I believe. Yeah. So yeah, Kafka absolutely deserves to be an offensive coordinator and have a job in 2026.
All right, Mark, let's do Charlie Bullen, who I have to admit, for like a day or two, I thought there's a chance he comes back. Now,
yeah.
I'm not saying he's not going to. I'm not saying he is. Odds are against it. But to be fair, he did a better job than Shane Bowen, and now Bullen gets an interview in Dallas.
Yeah. And that's good because he did a good job when he took over. But, there's a lot of jobs out there. If he goes to Dallas, which is always weird how things work out. You always go inside your division to get a coach. But if he goes to Dallas, it's not going to be bad. He earned that position to get that look-see. Will he get it? We'll see. But he earned it. He turned it around. He made the playbook more simplistic so the players can react to get the jobs done, and it was very effective. Now, can he do it on a yearly basis, on a long year deal? It remains to be seen. But he deserved that interview, and hopefully he gets it.
Yeah, and they're the unit that probably turned it around the most, don't you think, Patricia? I mean, the way he got Abdul Carter, which is clearly the main point here, got Abdul Carter to play the way we all thought he could play. That's kind of a big deal. He did a good job there.
Yeah, I mean, he was flexible with Abdul Carter, but as Mark had been screaming for all season long, he simplified things. Yep. He made it a little easier. See, he must have listened to Mark. He must have listened to the show and said, gee, maybe Mark is on to something. But seriously, the defense did perform better. I mean, and not just Abdul Carter. Bobby Okereke finished strong. Yeah. Dexter Lawrence started to come on a little bit there towards the end, despite the elbow issue. Several guys did. The run defense got better. I mean, I put up a post on the Locked On Giants Twitter account showing the comparisons of where the Giants defense ranked under Bullen versus Bowen, and it was a significant improvement.
Yeah. Even Banks played better. To be honest, I'm just saying he played better. I'm not saying he was a shutdown guy, but he played better. He was more focused. The whole defense was because you take all the elements of adjustments or whatever, you play 2 or 3 defenses, make it simple, let these guys play just their position and do something simplistic. That's what he did. And it's not rocket science. That's why I said defense is easy. It's easy when you know what the hell you're doing. If you don't have 5 different things going in your brain or do whatever, simplistic makes it work. Make this team on defense a 1 or 2 trick pony. It sounds bad on defense, but that's what works. If you're blitzing defense, if that's what you're going to do, you do it. When I played, we're predominantly cover 2 defense, and everybody knew what we were doing. So we did what we did when we won championships. That's what you do. Not to try to trick people on defense and smoke and mirrors. That gets DCs in trouble. Simplistic works.
All right, so next is Brian Dable, who this one makes me a little bit more nervous because it's obviously in the division. He interviewed for the OC job in Philadelphia. I don't know what his relationship is with Sirianni, but I'll tell you why this one scares me, Patricia, because I don't think he's incompetent. I think he could do a good job there, and obviously that's a close competitor of the Giants.
Yeah, and plus they have Saquon over there. And remember, when did Dable have his best season? When he had Saquon on the roster, right?
Yep.
So, and Saquon was healthy. But yeah, I would be a little concerned with that move as well. Plus Dable, he knows the Giants personnel. Yeah. So, he knows where the weaknesses are. And he's not a bad play caller. I mean, despite the fact that it didn't show really with the Giants, Dable has a clue what he's doing. So yeah, I would be a little leery if that move were to come down.
But remember, Patricia and Jay, if he goes to Philly, the Giants that right now, they're not going to be the same team this year that they are next year. There's going to be a lot of different changes, new OC, new DC, new head coach, and some of those players that he knows will be gone. Okay, so I don't think it will be a detriment as if when Saquon left. That was very detrimental. But if Brian Dable goes to Philly, I just see a different deal. It won't be the same Giants that he had that he left. So it'll be a different deal.
Yeah, agreed. And considering the way Philadelphia finished the season, you can bet there's going to be changes there. I will say this, and we didn't write this down, but it popped into my head. Moving forward on the defensive side, Patricia, is Dexter Lawrence a Giant next year? Because I'm kind of feeling like that might not happen.
I think it might. I think with the head coaching, hire that they made, if it had been maybe, I don't know, anybody else, I would have questioned it. But I think Dexter will be renewed. I really do. I mean, look, he had a lot happen this year. Excuse me. He had the elbow issue, new baby, which takes some getting used to. I mean, there was a lot going on with Dexter. Mm-hmm. Now you got a new coach coming in. I suspect Dexter's going to be rejuvenated and want to be a part of this moving forward.
Mark?
Yeah, sometimes a new situation, a new coach can inspire a player. So, yeah, I'm not. And if you move on, who's going to replace him? So, yeah, he's going to he'll be back. But I think John Harbaugh or whoever the DC would inspire him to be a better player, clean slate, and I think he'd be better for it.
It's interesting. Who's not getting an interview these days is Shane Bowen. And I'm not saying he'll be unemployed forever, but it's just kind of funny how basically everybody on the staff prior or currently is getting interviews and Shane Bowen is not, Patricia.
Well, I mean, look, I've said it before. Shane's a nice guy. I mean, I've got no problems with Shane personally, but one of the things I wondered about when they hired him as DC, I said this right up front. I said, how much of the success he had in Tennessee was Mike Vrabel? Because Mike Vrabel had that defensive background. And was Shane Bowen just kind of like a yes man from running what Vrabel wanted? And we got our answer, unfortunately. So, Look, I wish Shane Bowen the best. I really do. Man's got a family. He's not a bad person, but he just wasn't a good defensive coordinator standing on his own 2 feet.
Well, this is a time where he's got to, rely on his buddies. Call up Mike Vrabel. Maybe he could bring him on as a linebackers coach or whatever. And that happens in the league. It happens all the time. So, but no, he was not the fit that the Giants needed as a DC. It just didn't work out. So I wish him well, but he's got to make some calls and try to get on somewhere.
All right, each of you going to get a shot here. We're going to tie a bow on this with John Harbaugh. Obviously, it's a new era. There's no doubt about it. It begins today. Things have changed. It's the new Giants. It's everything we wanted. Patricia, big picture, your thoughts moving forward.
I think the Giants are going to be better. I would be very, very surprised if they turn in another 3-4 win season. I would be shocked. Now, it's going to depend, obviously, on health, who they bring in, because you do need some pieces to this team, but they've got a solid young core, and I expect that young core on offense and defense to be a lot more efficient, to play better. I think some of the mistakes and the misuses of the personnel we won't see moving forward. So I'm optimistic. Do I think the Giants will be a playoff team next year? I've got to see how the rest of the offseason unfolds, but I'm not going to sit here and say, no way is it happening.
All yours, Mark.
Well, he's on the clock. He's got 5 years to get it done. So, and I expect immediate success starting year one based on who he is, his pedigree, and the people he knows. He's expected to do something now. That's why they brought him in. That's why he's getting all that money. So you're on the clock, John Harbaugh. Get it done. I'm rooting for you.
All right, we are all on the clock because the clock has run out. We are done with today's show. We do have, of course, 2 more shows coming next week, as well as we do every week during the off season. Again, John Harbaugh, the new man. We have a new man at the top, and we are all very thankful for that. For Patricia and Mark, I'm Jay. We will see you next week. God bless.